Move aside, Utah. BYU's victory over the Utes on Saturday night cemented a fact in my mind that the Cougars, they're once again top dog in the Beehive State.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer at the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insider, your host here on this podcast, and as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. All right, coming up on today's show, it's a film review Monday. What did I take away from BYU's win over Utah? We'll get into that. We're also going to do a little film review on BYU basketball, their exhibition game against Nebraska. Yes, it was a loss, but it doesn't count any win or loss column because, once again, it's an exhibition, but a lot to take away from that. Then we'll finish up today's show going back to the football front. Kyle Van Noy was kind enough to take some time to talk with us in the media Saturday night amidst the glory that was the Holy War. A lot of good thoughts from him, and you'll hear them all ahead on today's show, and it's all brought to you today by our friends over at FanDuel. New customers right now can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets, courtesy of our friends over at FanDuel. Get started today by going to FanDuel.com or downloading the FanDuel app. All right, so looking at the game on Saturday night, rewatching it in particular, I came away from this really impressed by how BYU handled Utah in this game. The biggest thing I want to share with you guys upon my film review of this is that I said in the open of today's show that BYU is once again top dog in the state, speaking of the Beehive State, Utah. The reason I believe that is if you look at that game Saturday night and the mistakes that Utah made, which are really stuff that BYU, for the duration of their 9-game losing streak to Utah, those were the type of mistakes BYU made. Ill-advised penalties at ill-advised times, outright dumb plays, turnovers, everything that could go wrong that are like the controllables for Utah went wrong on Saturday night as BYU got that victory over the Utes. Did BYU have plenty of mistakes of their own? Yes, but BYU controlled the controllables better than their rivals did. And that's why now with 3 games in a row for BYU, by the time this game comes around next year at some point, BYU is going to be, 2,500 some odd days without having lost to Utah. There's going to be a whole generation of Utah fans that will have forgotten the last time Utah beat BYU. It's going to be a long stretch here for the Utes. And looking at this game, I was really impressed in particular by BYU's defensive line, led by guys like Keanu Tanavasa. I said it if you're an everydayer ahead of this game last week, that I wanted to see him pull his head out of his you-know-what and play much cleaner football. Well, he and the entire BYU defensive line impressed me in this game. I was really intrigued by how they handled things against a vaunted offensive line from the University of Utah. If you want an example of why the University of Utah has such a vaunted offensive line, there were more than 20 NFL personnel. We're talking front office executives on the way down to scouts sitting in the press box area where I sat during this game. John Spytek, who is the GM of the Oakland Raiders, had, I believe, 5 or 6 of himself and his own staff there to watch, and I got no problem saying it, to watch Caleb Lomu and in particular Spencer Fano, the offensive tackles for Utah. Well, what they observed is BYU's defensive line take it right to those guys. Keanu Tanavasa, Logan Latui, Bodie Schoonover, Tausili Akana, Hunter Clegg. They all had their moments in this game. And the biggest thing I thought I took away from this game was late in this game, BYU was getting pressure with 3-man fronts. That is something that I have been routinely criticizing BYU for, is rushing 3 and dropping 8. But when you're getting pressure, and Tausili Akana hit a Dwight Freeney-esque spin on Spencer Fano, and really Spencer Fano didn't know what hit him, and gets pressure on Devin Dampier, that showed me BYU's defensive line play with much better gap integrity and really contained things. Where things broke down for me for BYU defensively was the linebacking core. And I'm not going to lambaste guys like Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasgow, or Ciale Serra, etc., but they overran a lot of plays in this game. They had a lot of highlight reel plays as well, but when things went east-west, routinely, I saw BYU linebackers out of alignment, overrunning the play, and causing issues with being able to bottle up that east-west action that Daniel Bray in particular brought from Utah. The nice part was, you know who bailed them out? Faletau Satuwala and Tanner Wall. Those two guys, as the safeties for BYU in this game, were outright studs. And Tanner Wall has the interception. Falatau Satuala nearly killed a man when he hit Tobias Merriweather on that sideline. They had highlight reel plays of their own, but they cleaned up a lot of the garbage in front of them. That's what good safeties do. I thought BYU's defense took it to Utah for the most part, but it was not an easy game because these two programs are so intimately aware of what each other are trying to do. It's trying to like outthink the room. It's a chess match of the highest order. It's like two grandmasters going at it. Flipping over to the offense just for a moment, I think we need to continue to praise what LJ Martin means to BYU football right now. He's already surpassed his season total from a year ago. I think he's 770 some odd yards this season. It's top 10 in the entire country. He had 718 all of last year. And not only the fact that he's just being an absolute beast running the football, LJ is incredible right now in pass pro. Routinely, he was stonewalling guys who are coming off the edge or coming on blitzes, giving Bear Bachmeier that extra beat to get passes off. BYU doesn't have the success they had on offense on Saturday night without him. And I also give a little bit of a nod as well to Carson Ryan. Those max protects, those guys made sure that there was a very, very comfortable pocket for Bear Bachmeier to operate in. Bear took plenty of shots, and you're just going to have to deal with that in college football, especially the way that he runs the football. But the way that Bear runs the football, Jason Benetti said it best. There's a bear on the loose in Provo, Utah. That touchdown run will be iconic for years to come in this rivalry history, because if you watch that play, and I rewatched it, I don't know, 20, 25 times, there are 8 of the 11 Ute defenders who had a chance to at least get hands on him and potentially make a tackle on that play. And all Bear did was just slither through and around and over the top of them. And in the case of Jackson Benny, drag him 5 yards into the end zone. And I will just say this, Jackson Benny had a really, really rough night. I think it was maybe the first play of the game. LJ Martin has that big run up the middle. Who does he truck on that play? Jackson Benny. Who does Bear Bachmeier hurdle just seemingly a few plays later on that iconic hurdle he had? Jackson Benny. Who does it get dragged into the end zone and just probably should have let go so they didn't get embarrassed? Well, Jackson Benny held on for dear life and got dragged the full 5 yards into the end zone. Rough night at the office for the former Olympus Titan, speaking of Jackson Benny. And I'm not trying to denigrate him because I think he's actually a really, really good football player. He just had a bad night trying to slow down Bear and LJ in particular. I love the fact that the officials called out Utah for their BS. The mimicking the snap stuff is stuff that Kyle Whittingham has used literally for decades at this point, and they got them twice. Dallas Vakalahi was trying to simulate snap counts or the simulate the snap. And that's not allowed in college football anymore. And if referees hear it, they're supposed to flag it immediately. They tried it early on in the game. They called them on it. It seemed like they backed off of it. And then late in the game, they tried to do it again when the chips were down and BYU was nilling out this game. I am appreciative to the officials who had some iffy calls. We'll talk about that in a moment. But them noticing that and calling out Utah on that nonsense. That stuff, it has no place in the game. It's cheap. It's sophomoric. And the fact that Kyle Whittingham is continuing to use that in this day and age of college football shows how far behind the times that he is, honestly. Other things I took away from this. I thought BYU's offensive line punished an inexperienced Utah defensive line. There's a lot of young players in terms of defensive tackles for Utah right now. And BYU used their power to really mow them down. I was really impressed with the trench warfare BYU put on display in this game. So props to guys like Waylon Lapuaho, Bruce Mitchell, Austin Leusa, Sonny Makasini. The interior of BYU's offensive line was really, really good. And I can't also discount Andrew Gentry and Isaiah Jada on the exterior as the offensive tackles. I really like that. And then 2 other notes for you guys. Carson Ryan continues to be absolutely a safety blanket in critical downs and distances for BYU. And also the situation with the TV broadcast, Fox, you have my heart. I was routinely, I'm used to ESPN having those bloated TV timeouts when I'm rewatching these games, having to scroll through three, if not at least 4.5 minutes to get back to game action. Fox has 3-minute TV timeouts. They are absolutely awesome about making sure that they have a broadcast window that contains the full game with 4-hour blocks of time. ESPN couldn't imagine having that go on for them. I'm not trying to denigrate ESPN either, but I love the fact that Fox, they've slimmed down things. They probably are charging more for limited inventory, but it's better for the viewing public when you do that. They very easily could go the ESPN route and try and bloat their TV windows and try and fit as many in as possible. Fox has kind of gone against what ESPN's doing and saying, you know what? We're going to have a 4-hour block of time for these games. We're going to have 3-minute TV timeouts, and it's better just in terms of the viewing aspect. I appreciate Fox for doing that. And then the final thing I'll pass along is the clock management in these games. I talked about it on the postcast edition I did late Saturday, early night, Sunday morning, Saturday night, early Sunday morning, depending on where you're at. The clock management at the end of both halves for BYU, abysmal. Should have kicked the field goal late in that game, gone up 13. I don't for the life of me understand how the analytics said throw it to Chase. I know that they thought they had a chance to beat the corner on that. Corner made an incredible play and broke it up, but I would have taken the points there. And then also at the end of the first half, Bear Bachmeier was uber frustrated, pointing at his helmet saying, hey, what are we doing here? That was indefensible. You should have gotten more than, it felt like, 3 points out of that circumstance. And had you gotten 7, whole different complexion, it feels like, as you end that first half. But those are just a couple of notes with regards to things I would fix for BYU. But the film review, solid, gutty. It was a performance that BYU can look back on and be proud of, even though they had mistakes in this one. It still feels like BYU is not operating at peak efficiency quite yet. That's a good sign for a 7-0 football program who's now ranked 11th in the country, everybody. Life is good in Provo, because if they get to that peak efficiency, how good could this team be? Well, I think RG3 said it himself. He thinks a national championship is BYU ceiling this season. Will they realize that? TBD, but that's some high praise coming from a guy who's won at a pretty high level himself. All right, coming up next, BYU basketball. Played Nebraska on Saturday morning, kind of spanning a lunchtime, playing the Cornhuskers in an exhibition game. And I will just say this, what I took away from that game, well, AJ DeBonsa, they've said he's him. He absolutely is him. We'll talk more about some other takeaways from that coming up next, right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is ongoing, and FanDuel has an incredible offer you do not want to miss. New customers right now can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, plop down $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The best part about FanDuel is you many different ways to play. You can build parlays, player props. You can follow live action during the games, futures odds. No matter what you're interested in, FanDuel's got it for you guys. It makes watching football even more exciting. We got a little something extra riding on the action. Even with basketball season pretty much here, take advantage of that as well. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with that $5 bet that can net you $300 in bonus bets. It's all courtesy of your friends over at FanDuel. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly called OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you heard me talk about before, just with a new name, my friends. That's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table if you're a business owner. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or on your computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline, which can go unanswered. The best part is their AI agent is a game changer, can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep your business moving forward even when you're off the clock. And whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it that much easier to stay responsive and be professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And even if you've got an existing number with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Once again, that's a courtesy of your friends over at Quo. No missed calls, and of course, no missed customers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for the love you guys shared on Saturday night. Guys like David Webb. I'm trying to think who else. I'm going to miss some. I've met a ton of people, so I apologize on the names. David Webb was one of them. Came by a tailgate we're doing with the KSL Sports Zone, and I appreciate all the love you guys shared. Christian, appreciate you stopping by as well. And I was absolutely floored. And I'm not going to say this, I don't get starstruck a lot, but I got on the elevator when I got back to Lavelle Edwards Stadium to go up to the press box. And there was obviously some VIPs. There often is at BYU games. And Elder David A. Bednar was in attendance at the game. Well, he was planning on getting on one car, and I was like, okay, I'll just hop on the other car. I don't want to get in their way, whatever. So I hop in the other car, and all of a sudden, in come VIPs, David A. Bednar, President Shane Reese, Keith Vorkink, like the who's who of BYU brass, and obviously the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And in walks a man who stands right next to me, I'm back in the corner. I'm about as plastered against the wall as you possibly can be, because I just want to be out of the way. And Michael Bednar, son of David A. Bednar, walks up and says, Jake, I know you don't know who I am, but I'm an everyday listener. We live in Champaign, Illinois. He is a professor at the University of Illinois, if I recall correctly. So thank you, Michael, for saying hi, and thank you for your support of the podcast. It really does mean the world to me that got some people that are the who's who, it feels like, actually supporting this show. So appreciate you saying hello. And yeah, that was really cool for you to say that. All right, so moving along. BYU basketball lost an exhibition game. Now, that on its head make you have alarm bells going off in your head. But I caution you, if you did not watch BYU and the Nebraska play on Saturday lunchtime, BYU would have won that game had they had their horses out there. Kevin Young said it best in the postgame press conference. The guys like Robert Wright III were on a minutes restriction as they come back from injury. He also, with down one with like 10 seconds to go, he could have put AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, Kevin K to whoever back in that game to go for the win. But he decided to trust the five guys on the court, including some walk-ons. Guys like Jared McGregor were on the court at the time, and they drove up a play for Andre Kostic to see if he could get a shot off. He didn't get it off. He got a shot off, missed it. Then Jared McGregor heaves up a desperation three off the mark as well, and BYU falls 90-89. No harm, no foul, because it's an exhibition game. The one thing I took away from this, though, for BYU was that AJ DeBonsa, folks, we're in for a treat. I am absolutely just geeked to watch what we're going to watch with AJ DeBonsa. He scored 30 points and made it look easy. He got to his spots. He added 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block. Anybody who wants to think that AJ is just a one-trick pony in terms of scoring is getting it all wrong. This kid plays within the framework of his team, but he's absolutely the best player on the court. And I think he knows that, but he also understands that he needs to have the whole team around him succeed, to ultimately succeed at the level that he wants to succeed at. That's like a really convoluted sentence, but I hope you bore with me on that. He absolutely shined in this game. And yeah, had he been on the court in the final moments of this game, I think he gets fouled. He makes a shot, and BYU probably comes from Lincoln with an exhibition win. But that's beside the point. This dude is absolutely him, to use the parlance of the day. I absolutely love what we're seeing from this kid. And if he can do that in an exhibition game, and yes, there's going to be better opponents BYU is going to face, because Nebraska was picked 14th out of the 18 teams in the Big Ten. But I'll also say this. If Nebraska can shoot threes the way they shot threes against BYU, they may finish a little better than 14th in that league. But I love what AJ DeBonsa brought to the table. He absolutely shined in Lincoln, and I'm looking forward to being there in the Delta Center Friday night, when the Cougars take on North Carolina. North Carolina is a top 25 ranked opponent. It's an exhibition once again, so it doesn't count against the record, but I'm looking forward to seeing how BYU does against a better team overall when they take on North Carolina Friday. And I'm expecting AJ, he'll shine once again. They said 12 different NBA scouts were in attendance at that game. I think all 12 of them came away probably with some pretty glowing reports about AJ's play. Other things, BYU has to find a way to defend the three-point line better. There were moments in that game against Nebraska, I had flashbacks to Alabama absolutely torching BYU from three in that Sweet 16 matchup. They have to be able to find a way to get people off the three-point line and defend it just overall better. Rink Mast, the big man for Nebraska, he was 7 of 8 from 3 and just absolutely lighting it up. He, like AJ, looked like a man amongst boys. He was 31 points deep before they lifted him from this game. Nebraska threw everything they had at BYU, it felt like, offensively. And BYU cannot defend the three-point line. There's going to be far better and far more equipped teams than in Nebraska that'll torch them from beyond the arc. So BYU's got to figure that out. That's just the lone criticism I got from this game. I thought overall BYU's interior defense was pretty good, but the three-point line, for a team that loves to play either at the rim or at beyond the arc, BYU knows how valuable the three-point line is in the modern game of basketball. They got to find a way to defend it better, whether it's running people off the line or just getting out on guys and guarding your yard a little bit better. Final note from me is a couple of guys that stood out to me in this game in terms of what I liked about them is that Robert Wright III absolutely looks like the engine that's going to drive this BYU offense. I know he only played in the first half of this game, but I was really impressed with him. There were moments he took over in terms of going to the rim when needed, but he worked within the framework of what Kevin Young's trying to do on this team. Khadim Mboop, I think I got that right, absolutely looks the part of can guard everywhere from a 1 to 5. He's just a versatile defender, but he's got an incredible body on him. He rebounded well, showed an ability to run the court, finish through contact, defend the rim. I think he's kind of a do-everything, jack-of-all-trades player that BYU is going to like to have on this roster, and I really liked what I saw from him as well in this game. And then I'll also add Andre Kostic. He was a late addition to BYU's roster, but he brings pro experience from overseas in Europe, and you can tell that he's not wowed by the moment or situations that otherwise may overwhelm some guys. I really liked what I saw from him as well. And if there's people I missed out on, people you guys liked, drop them in the comments below. I don't think I got everybody. Those are just people that stood out to me watching that game, but I'm absolutely floored at how good AJ DeBonsa is, and we're in for a treat. I really do think it's going to be an exciting season ahead. And so long as Richie Saunders, by the way, who didn't shoot it well on Saturday, he comes along as we all expect he will, it's going to be a pretty darn good offense BYU is going to have running between those two guys. But at the same time, they're also pretty darn good defenders as well. All right, we will finish up today's show back on the football front. Kyle Van Noy at halftime on Saturday night was kind enough to talk to some of us in the media. I want you guys to hear his comments. Had a lot of good thoughts on what BYU means to him as he's spent 13 years away from the university. 13 years away. And why he was so excited to come back and what he wants to see more of when it comes to BYU athletics and in particular from BYU football. We'll let you hear those comments next right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch. Let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth between 401ks, savings, investments, or anything else out there. It's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table for you as a consumer. That's why I want you guys to start using Monarch. It's an all-in-one financial tool that brings your entire financial life into one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It helps you organize your accounts, track your spending, and get a better handle on your investments without having ever to touch a spreadsheet, because I think a lot of us just shudder at the thought of having to deal with a spreadsheet, fill out all that information. This does it all for you guys. Their visual dashboards and smart tools make it much easier to understand where the money's going and how to make it work harder for you as well. So do not let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, and get half off your first year. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. If you have not done so and join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group, would encourage you guys to join us today. Get the inside scoop on all things BYU. I can tell you this much. I got a little update coming later today on some injury stuff for BYU football and basketball. Just football. But if you don't want to miss out on that, join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. It's just $5 a month to be a part of the group, and you get 2 full weeks, by the way, before you charge a single penny. So join us today. Link is in the show notes below, or reach out to us via social media. We'll get you squared away as a member of the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. All right, Saturday night, Kyle Van Noy, who is, by the way, having the time of his life at Lavelle Edwards Stadium Saturday, he took some time at halftime. I went down from the press box, stood right there in the corner of the end zone, and caught up with him along with some other media members. I think Ron Weaver was there from ESPN 960. Jared Lloyd from the Daily Herald was there. And Sean Walker, I believe, also from KSL.com. I think it was the four of us that talked to him. And I was really impressed with the way that Kyle handled the questions we asked him, but more importantly, the message he had for BYU fans. And it's a message of very positive things because he sees BYU on the uptick, and let's just let him explain. So here you go. Here's the conversation we had with Kyle Van Noy Saturday night at Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
What's it like being back, man?
Man, it's been amazing. It's been an awesome 2 days being back. Fun to have my son come back and the family, my wife and my daughter. So it's been good. It's been good to see a lot of familiar faces, new faces, and just the atmosphere that's here, the culture Kalani has brought to the football program. You know, I'm behind him every way. I think he needs to get way more love. He's been just as winning coaches, Mendenhall and Lavelle. He's done a great job, and he's been doing a great job in transition years. Like, that's really hard. And the way he's done it with grace, class, I mean, he's loved by everybody. All the coaches give him love every week. That just speaks volume of who he is as a person. When you have peers giving you love like that, and it's just awesome to be a part of that as an alumni and be proud to have him lead a team the way that they've done, undefeated so far this year, and then in a dogfight with Utah. What more can you ask for, you know?
What's the biggest change in the time since you left and coming back that you observed?
I mean, everything. They got new locker room, new turf. They got it all, and they deserve it, you know? This is a first-class organization. They should dump a lot more money into football, because where it's continuing to grow. The teams outperform each and every year, so that they should just continue to dump all the money into football and see where it can go. I really think, whenever they make this super league, that we'll be right there in it.
What memories flood back into your mind when you step on the field for the first time in 12 years and you're like, wow, yeah. I'm back at Live Edwards Stadium?
Honestly, just all the awesome teammates that I've had over the years. Seeing some of them today was awesome. I haven't seen some in 12 years, decades. So it's been an amazing opportunity to spend time with them, see how they're doing, their kids are doing. It's been an honor to hang out with them and be a part of what we got going on here. It's been fun. I miss playing in front of this rocking crowd, 68,000. It's just been an awesome environment. Just blessed to be here today.
Now you're walking on the field with your son before the game.
Yeah.
What's that like to bring your son back to the place where you played and kind of really got your football career launched here?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I'm just so proud to have a son like him. He's such a good boy. His name's Trey. I'm very proud to be his dad. And, I just like to give him special moments. It's a moment for us. My wife got a cool picture of us standing on the sideline during warm-ups. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw she was taking it. So I'm excited to go back and look at all the photos with the family over the last 2 days. It's just been an awesome time.
What's made this rivalry so special in your opinion?
Just the tension that it brings. They try to say it's not their Super Bowl. It's both teams' Super Bowls. Obviously, everybody wants to win championships, but when you live in this county and you go to Salt Lake and you get bragging rights for the year, it's a lot of trash talk you can do. Good, it's been good both sides. We've had the better of it as of late, and it's been fun, and it's just awesome. I want them to do well. Obviously, outside of this game, stepping out and just being a person that represents Utah and Kyle Whittingham and doing, having a relationship with him. I want them to have success, just not this week.
How was the big? You touched on this on social media, but BYU shaping you as an individual, and then the man you've become, and football career, and all of that. As you think of that, what does it mean to stand on this ground, and just as far as what it did for you as a person?
I just have a platform to voice it, but I know it's had an impact on a lot of, not only myself, but a lot of my teammates. And I don't want to speak for all of them, but I can speak for a lot of them as far as saying that it made an impact on all of us as not only football players, but as men. And just seeing the impact of the dads that most of my teammates are, just proud to see them transition into dads, have jobs, and just be good human beings. I'm super proud to be able to call a lot of the guys teammates, and that's what I think about, just being able to see how it's impacted me, my teammates, in a positive light, and just continue to ride that light that we got and continue to bless others with it. A lot of players right now that I played with are coaching, and that's what you want to see. They're giving back to their communities. Mountain View, they're taking over Mountain View, a couple of them, so it's just fun to see that. They're making an impact.
How was the Big Noon kickoff experience? Have you thought about what you want to do post-career? Do you want to do media?
What do you guys think? You think I should? Yeah? No, it was an awesome experience. I enjoy working with Fox every chance I get. They've been awesome to me. It was an awesome experience to be with Swag Daddy Jamal Williams, who brings the same type of energy. We had a good time. It was awesome to be with that crew. They did a good job.
What type of players are Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasgow at the next level?
Yeah, I think they are NFL caliber players. Obviously, they always got to get better. That'll be time and discussion. But as of now, I love what I see from those two. I think they do a good job leading a group, and I think they make impact plays every single game they step on the field, and that's what you want to see from your star players.
There you have it, Kyle Van Noy. He wants the admins to pour all the monies into BYU football. I don't think it's a bad idea, but BYU basketball has its own place in terms of what it can generate for BYU athletics, but he's not wrong. When BYU football, as it has done for decades, is the ship that drives all of BYU athletics forward, give them any and all resources they can. He said extend Kalani into however long he wants to extend for. He's right about that. Kalani Sitake is the right man to lead BYU on into the foreseeable future at the helm of the BYU football program. You cannot argue with what he's done over the past season and a half. They're 18-2 in their last 20 games. That's absolutely elite stuff. We're talking that's the level that we have not seen for many, many years, harkening back to kind of the heyday of BYU football under LaVell Edwards Stadium. Think of that kind of that 1979 to 1984 span when BYU was cranking out 11-2, 12-1 in 1984, obviously the 13-0 season with national championships. That's the level of winning we're seeing from BYU football right now. That's why I think Kyle Van Noy is dead on when he says, hey, extend Kalani Sitake, make sure that he's taken care of, and make sure that BYU football is what it needs to be to lead the BYU brand on into the foreseeable future. I love that from Kyle and appreciate him speaking up on he's a former player, so he knows where BYU's been because he saw it from where he was at when he was at BYU and what he's seeing now. And he's never been one to mince words and not speak his mind. Kyle's always been willing to do that. All right, coming up next. Coming up next tomorrow, we're going to talk with Big 12 host Drake Toll. Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend. He was in Provo, Utah over the weekend. We'll have a great discussion, I'm sure, on what he took away from his time in Utah Valley and Sundance and the like, and that the game. We'll talk about all that. So stay tuned for that on a Tuesday edition of the show. But as always, thank you for your support of this podcast. It does not exist without you guys, and I truly do appreciate any and all of you. I give a lot of you shout outs, but there are thousands more of you who haven't gotten a shout out. I'd love to give a shout out too. So thank you as always for your support of this podcast, making it your first listen of the day, and more importantly, being everydayers right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.